That's the first time he's done it. That's the first time, right? You're pretty popular. He might be more popular than Don and Eric. We got to talk about this. Hey, Don, we got to talk about this, huh? All right, so Barron, it's good to have you. Welcome to the scene. Barron, I don't know, at 18, Barron Trump finally made a statement that rocked not just the Trump family but the entire world. Known for his years of silence and minimal media exposure, Barron's words took many by surprise. The Trump family, long associated with high-profile political figures and celebrity status, has had its share of controversies. However, Barron remained largely in the shadows until now, when he broke his silence. The world was forced to pay attention. What was the catalyst that pushed him to speak out? His first statement was not just an ordinary comment, it was a declaration, and one that no one saw coming. The intrigue around Barron only deepened as people scrambled to decode his message. Growing up in a family filled with public figures, Barron's silence often seemed intentional. He never fully embraced the fame that came with being the youngest son of Donald Trump. He appeared content to live his life out of the spotlight, away from the media circus that his siblings were so accustomed to. But why now? What prompted him to come forward at 18, just when the political landscape was experiencing so much turmoil? This was a time when public attention was riveted on Donald Trump's political moves, yet Barron chose to speak up. Barron's decision to speak out cannot be viewed in isolation. It is deeply connected to the growing pressure faced by young people today to establish their own identity in an increasingly polarized world. In many ways, Barron's statement mirrors a broader trend of younger generations seeking a voice, no longer willing to be content with the background. But was this statement a one-off, or does it mark a turning point for Barron Trump? For years, he had been the quiet Trump, observing from afar. His words now mark a shift, a young man coming into his own. The intensity of Barron's words echoed throughout the media. Analysts and commentators immediately jumped into the debate over what Barron's statement meant. Was it a rebellion against his father's political career, a simple expression of his personal feelings, or an indication of his own future ambitions? Speculation ran wild, and the questions grew louder as Barron's words reverberated. It became clear that this was no ordinary teenager's declaration. The implications of his statement stretched far beyond his own personal life. They had the potential to affect the Trump legacy. One of the most pressing questions following Barron's words was what they meant for his future. Growing up in the public eye, under the intense scrutiny of a famous family, Barron's future choices are watched by millions. His decision to speak out has raised the stakes, not just for his personal trajectory, but for the entire Trump family. Was Barron positioning himself for something larger, or was this just an isolated moment of expression? The true impact of Barron's statement remains to be seen, but one thing is certain, the world is watching closely as this young man begins to find his voice. Inside Barron's silent years, Barron Trump's years of silence have been puzzling to many, especially in an era when the media thrives on sensationalism and exposure. For most of his life, Barron has been kept away from the public eye, a stark contrast to his siblings, who embraced the fame and politics associated with the Trump name. So why did Barron choose to stay in the background? Was it a conscious choice to avoid the pressure of his family's name, or was it something deeper? From his early years, Barron was portrayed as a quiet figure, often seen only in rare appearances with his parents. As the youngest son of one of the most controversial figures in the world, Barron's early life was filled with public scrutiny. From the moment he was born, the media was captivated by him. Yet, as he grew older, Barron resisted the limelight. Was it because he did not want to be defined by his father's legacy, or did he simply prefer a life of anonymity? In the midst of the Trump family's constant media whirlwind, Barron's resistance to the public spotlight was a rare anomaly in a family that lived and breathed public attention. Barron's decision to stay out of the public eye could have been a form of self-preservation. With his father's volatile presidency, the pressures on the Trump family were immense. Barron's quiet nature and preference for privacy could have been a reaction to the chaos around him. It's also possible that Barron's early experiences with the media left him disillusioned with the idea of celebrity. While his siblings openly embraced the spotlight, Barron stayed behind, often seen as the silent observer. His occasional public appearances were few and far between, adding to the mystique surrounding him. One might wonder if Barron's distance from the spotlight was also a response to the constant comparisons made between him and his father. Donald Trump is a polarizing figure, and Barron grew up in the midst of his father's controversial political career. The weight of that legacy could easily be overwhelming, especially for a young man trying to carve out his own identity. Barron's silence may have been his way of avoiding being dragged into the political arena before he was ready. After all, he was only a child when his father began his presidential campaign, and the world watched him grow up. However, despite Barron's preference for privacy, his life was still very much public. The media would often speculate about his relationship with his father and his upbringing. Yet, despite all of this, Barron remained resolutely silent. The question on everyone's mind remained why the silence became part of Barron's identity, making his sudden break from it even more significant. Was this the beginning of a new phase in Barron's life, or was his statement a fleeting moment that would be followed by more years of silence? Barron Trump's decision to break his silence at 18 raised more questions than answers. After years of maintaining an aura of mystery, his sudden public statement shocked those who had been watching from afar. What drove Barron to speak out now? Was it the pressure of growing up under a microscope, or did something happen that made him feel compelled to share his thoughts with the world? The timing of his statement was peculiar, and many are left wondering what the true catalyst for Barron's first words of significance was. There are many possible reasons for Barron's change in behavior. As the youngest son of one of the most polarizing figures in the world, Barron's life has been far from ordinary. Perhaps he simply reached a point where he could no longer remain silent. After all, at 18, he was transitioning from a child to an adult, and adulthood often brings a desire to express one's thoughts and beliefs. This transition might have been the tipping point. Barron was no longer the quiet observer, he was ready to speak his truth, whether or not the world was prepared for it. Some may speculate that Barron's statement was a direct response to the events surrounding his family, especially given the tumultuous period that followed his father's presidency. The Trump family has been under constant public scrutiny, and Barron too had his fair share of attention. His decision to speak out could have been motivated by the desire to finally have a voice in the conversation that has so long excluded him. It's possible that Barron grew tired of being seen only as a backdrop to the chaos surrounding his family's political legacy. This statement could be his attempt to reclaim some autonomy. The world watched as Barron's words became the subject of widespread analysis. Was it a cry for help, a political statement, or a simple expression of personal frustration? Regardless of the intent, the effect was undeniable. Barron Trump had finally given the world a glimpse of his thoughts. The media went into overdrive dissecting his words and speculating about what motivated his statement. Could this be the start of a new chapter for Barron, one where he steps into the spotlight on his own terms, or was this just an isolated moment, a one-time expression of his personal views? As Barron begins to step out of the shadows, the future remains uncertain. Will his voice become more prominent in the coming years, or will this brief break from silence be forgotten? The world is eager to see if Barron's first statement marks the beginning of a larger movement or if it will remain a fleeting moment. Whatever the case may be, one thing is for sure, Barron Trump's words have set the stage for what could be a defining period in his life. When Barron Trump spoke out at 18, his words did more than just cause a media stir, they sent shock waves through his family. For years, Barron had maintained a low profile, but with this single statement, he forced the Trump family to confront a reality they weren't prepared for. What did Barron's comments mean for his relationship with his father, Donald Trump? Could this moment signal a shift in the Trump family dynamic? The fallout from Barron's words is still unfolding, and it's likely that the impact will be felt for years to come. The Trump family has long been a unit bound by ambition, public spectacle, and political power. But Barron's words have introduced an element of vulnerability to the family's narrative. For many, Barron's silence had been seen as a form of loyalty to his father's political brand. His break from this silence could be perceived as a shift in allegiances, a sign that Barron is no longer willing to simply play the part of the quiet child. This could create tension within the family, especially as the world watches Barron's every move. Was Barron's statement an expression of frustration with the family dynamics? Could it have been his way of distancing himself from the political empire his father built? Or was this a moment of personal growth, where Barron finally found the courage to speak his truth? Whatever the case may be, Barron's words are undeniably impactful. As the media continues to analyze his statement, one thing is clear: Barron Trump's voice is now a force to be reckoned with. His words have reverberated beyond the family, forcing the world to confront a new reality about the youngest Trump heir. As Barron's statement continues to dominate the headlines, many are asking what it means for the future of the Trump family. Will Barron continue to speak out, or was this just a one-time event? How will Donald Trump and the rest of the family react to Barron's newfound voice? The drama surrounding Barron's decision to break his silence is far from over. As the dust settles, it's likely that the true significance of Barron's words will become even clearer. The impact of Barron's statement isn't just limited to his family. The media has turned its focus on him, and many people are wondering how Barron's actions might influence the trajectory of the Trump name. Could this mark a new chapter in the Trump legacy, where Barron plays a larger role? Or is this simply a blip in the ongoing drama surrounding the family? The answer is uncertain, but one thing is clear: Barron Trump's silence has been broken, and the world is watching closely. The backlash Barron Trump's decision to speak out has generated a wide range of reactions, from praise to harsh criticism. While some applaud his bravery in stepping forward, others question his motives and timing. Barron's words have become the subject of intense debate, with various factions of society reacting to his statements in drastically different ways. The backlash has been swift, with social media platforms flooded with responses both supportive and condemning. For some, Barron's decision to speak was seen as a long overdue moment of authenticity. After years of silence, many believe that Barron's break from his family's political brand was an act of courage. People who had watched him grow up in the public eye were eager to hear from him, and Barron's statement was seen as a chance for him to define himself. On the other hand, critics argue that Barron's statement was a reflection of his personal frustrations rather than a well-thought-out position. They point to the fact that his statement seemed unfiltered and emotional, possibly making it harder for some to take it seriously. The backlash also stems from the political implications of Barron's words. In a country so divided by politics, every comment from a member of the Trump family is scrutinized for any hint of alignment or opposition to the current political landscape. Barron's statement was no exception. Was he supporting his father's political views, or was he signaling his own stance on important issues? As the media dissects every word he spoke, Barron's statement has become a lightning rod for discussions on politics, family dynamics, and public image. But the most stinging aspect of the backlash is how it reflects the public's expectations of Barron Trump. For years, Barron was seen as an innocent bystander to the political chaos around him, but with his words, he shattered that image. The expectations placed on him were already high, and now that he has spoken out, the public is watching his every move. Will Barron continue to speak his mind, or will he retreat once again into silence? His words have set the stage for what could be a major shift in his personal journey. As the backlash continues to unfold, Barron Trump finds himself at a crossroads. Will he embrace this newfound attention and use his platform to voice his opinions, or will he return to his more private life? The reactions to his statement suggest that Barron's path forward will be far from predictable, and the world is eager to see where he goes next. The media frenzy: the moment Barron Trump broke his silence, the media turned its unblinking eye on him, as expected. For years, Barron had been a relatively. Barron Trump was often an obscure figure in the political drama surrounding his father, while his siblings were frequently in the limelight. Barron's life was marked by a deliberate distance from the media. However, his sudden statement at 18 left no stone unturned. Every word he uttered was dissected, analyzed, and amplified by every major news outlet. His personal life, once considered his sanctuary, became the subject of intense public scrutiny. The public's fascination with Barron has always been there, but now, with him speaking out, the media frenzy reached new heights. The media's obsession with Barron is hardly surprising, as the youngest son of a former president. Barron is a figure of immense intrigue. For years, journalists and political commentators have speculated about his thoughts and opinions, especially since his father's presidency was often marred by controversy. Barron's silence had only served to fuel that curiosity. But now, with Barron speaking openly, the question is no longer about his silence, it's about what he said and how it might shape the future of the Trump legacy. The media's frenzy also brings into focus the level of pressure that Barron faces as a member of one of the most talked-about families in the world. Every public appearance, every word he speaks is scrutinized and scrutinized again. Barron's decision to speak out opens the floodgates to a wave of attention that he may or may not have anticipated. The personal toll this level of scrutiny has on a young person is profound, and as the media frenzy continues, it raises questions about how Barron will cope with the newfound attention. Will he thrive under the spotlight, or will it drive him further into isolation? This scrutiny is also about expectations. With Barron's voice now amplified, the media and the public expect him to take a position on a wide range of issues. But is he ready for that? At just 18 years old, Barron is still very much finding his place in the world, navigating the complexities of his identity while trying to carve out his own path. The world is now looking to him to see whether he will step into the role his family has set for him, or whether he will go down an entirely different path. The weight of these expectations can't be overstated, and the media will likely continue to watch his every move, demanding answers. The reality is that Barron's words and the media's intense coverage of them serve as a reminder of the complex relationship between public figures and their families. Barron is not just the son of Donald Trump, he is now a figure in his own right. The media's coverage of him will have long-lasting implications. Whether or not Barron continues to speak out, his moment in the spotlight is a pivotal one, and as the media's obsession grows, Barron will have to decide whether to embrace it or retreat into the shadows once again. What does Barron's statement mean for the family's future? Barron Trump's statement at 18 did more than just draw attention to him, it cast a spotlight on the future of the Trump family and its political legacy. For many, the Trump family represents more than just a political dynasty, it's a symbol of power, wealth, and influence. However, Barron's sudden declaration has introduced a new layer of complexity. What does his statement mean for the Trump family moving forward? Is Barron signaling a departure from the family's brand, or is this just the beginning of a new chapter in the family's history? Barron's decision to speak out is noteworthy because it is so different from the public personas of his siblings. Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka Trump, and Eric Trump have all carved out their own niches within the political landscape, but Barron has been a more elusive figure. His silence suggested a desire to stay out of the public eye, away from the political ambitions of his family. However, his statement at 18 signals a potential shift in the Trump legacy. Could Barron be positioning himself as the future of the Trump brand, or will his stance push him in an entirely different direction? The Trump family has always been an intriguing subject for the media, but Barron's statement adds a layer of unpredictability. While his father, Donald Trump, thrived on attention and controversy, Barron's path might look very different. Will he embrace the role that the public has always expected him to take, or will he reject it entirely? If Barron were to pursue a career in politics or public service, he would carry the weight of his family's name with him, but does he want to? His statement raises more questions than answers about the future of the Trump family. Legacy. Another factor to consider is the generational shift in American politics, as the Trump family's brand has been deeply tied to the past political era. Barron's voice could represent a new direction. The political landscape is rapidly changing, and young people like Barron are increasingly seen as the voices of the future. If Barron does choose to step into the political arena, how will his approach differ from the strategies of his father or siblings? Barron's statement is not just a personal declaration, it could be a preview of the political future the Trump family faces. The Trump legacy has always been a subject of intense debate. Barron's words may have the power to reshape that narrative, depending on what path he chooses to take. Whether he embraces the family's political legacy or decides to carve out his own path remains to be seen. But one thing is clear, Barron's voice is now an important part of that story, and the future of the Trump family is more uncertain than ever. Breaking from tradition, Barron Trump's statement at 18 marked a significant shift not just in his personal life but in the broader narrative of his family. For years, the Trump family has been a symbol of wealth, power, and political dominance. Yet, Barron's words seem to challenge some of the core elements of that image. In a family that has built its reputation on boldness, dominance, and public spectacle, Barron's decision to speak out seems like a radical shift. What does this change in perspective mean for the future of the Trump family? Is this a sign that Barron is rejecting the values that have defined his family, or is it a natural evolution as he grows into adulthood? Growing up in the shadow of a political empire, Barron Trump has always been seen as the quiet, reserved member of the family. But his recent statement reveals a level of introspection and independence that was previously unseen. Barron's ability to break free from the mold of his famous father and siblings is noteworthy. The question that now arises is whether this shift in perspective is a one-time event, or if Barron's views will continue to evolve in unexpected ways. Barron's change in perspective could also be viewed as a response to the political environment in which he was raised. The Trump family's influence on the political landscape has been profound, but the world is changing. Barron, growing up in a time of increased awareness around issues like social justice, environmentalism, and political polarization, might be feeling a disconnect from the older values associated with his family. His statement could be a sign that he is positioning himself as someone who will look beyond traditional politics and focus more on the pressing issues of today. Barron Trump's tensions with the rest of the Trump clan have become evident. Barron Trump's decision to break his silence has had ripple effects within his own family. While some members of the Trump family have embraced the public spotlight, Barron's relative silence for most of his life suggested that he had a more complex relationship with the media. But now, with his bold statement, it's clear that Barron has his own opinions and beliefs, ones that may not necessarily align with the rest of the Trump clan. Is this the beginning of a growing divide within the family, or is it simply a case of Barron carving out his own identity? The Trump family has always been united by its wealth, power, and political ambitions. However, Barron's decision to speak out at 18 challenges this dynamic. In a family where public appearances and statements are carefully curated, Barron's break from the mold stands out. While his siblings Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka Trump, and Eric Trump have all embraced their roles in the public eye, Barron's decision to stay in the background for so long raises questions about whether he has always felt out of place within the family structure. One of the most pressing questions now is whether Barron's statement will create tension within the family. While Donald Trump and his children have often been in the spotlight together, Barron's newfound voice could signify a shift in the family dynamic. Is Barron distancing himself from his father's politics, or is he simply speaking up for the first time? As the youngest member of the Trump family, Barron's perspective is crucial, and his words could signal a new direction for the family in both personal and political matters. As Barron Trump steps out from the shadows and makes his voice heard, the political landscape surrounding the Trump family is bound to shift. What's clear is that this is just the beginning of a new chapter in the family's history. Whether Barron will follow in his father's footsteps or forge his own path remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, his words will continue to spark conversations across the globe. The future of the Trump legacy now has a new unpredictable player, and how he navigates the challenges ahead will determine his place in that story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on Barron Trump and the latest developments.